Finally got around to doing this. This was intended to be done 16 months ago. I'm sure you've seen the title, probably why you've clicked on it. It's to document my own recovery from a ruptured Achilles tendon, and I had originally wanted to document the journey as it happened all the way through. That didn't quite materialise, so I thought, well, I better jump on now. So I'm going to try and cram in 16 months into potentially 20 minutes. I also want to start by saying this, that everybody's journey and recovery is unique. This is just my own personal experience. You guys will have your own timelines in which you recover. As usual, listening to the professionals, listen to your physios. As I say, I'm just going to document my journey, and hopefully it can help inspire and motivate you guys to get back to where you were before, or even improving upon that. Because I know for myself, I consume so much content when I get injured. It was of massive value to me, so I feel, well, why can't I document my journey, and hopefully there's somebody out there that will benefit from this also. A bit of background about myself, so I'm sure you can hear the accent. So I'm based just outside Glasgow. I'm from Scotland. Hopefully we don't need subtitles running along this video. But yeah, I'm a personal trainer. I have been for the past 3 years now, and growing up in the west of Scotland, we have a big kind of sporting culture here. So in case you don't know, it goes without saying, football is massive here, very tribal, depending on what side of the divide you're on. But yeah, growing up, football was everything. I took part in taekwondo, we played golf, whether it was Wimbledon season, it was tennis, and yeah, so very active, and I'm fortunate now that I've managed to carry that into my career and do something that I've got massive passion for. So if we get to the injury and how it happened, now we're talking about our culture here being massive football. So I was taking part in a charity game, and there was about 2 minutes to go. So we're talking about the 88th minute of this charity game. And if I can remember right, the goalkeeper rolled the ball out to me, and I've played a pass out to the right wing, and I've literally just took a step to the left-hand side of the person that was in front. And for anyone that has ruptured their Achilles tendon, all I can describe the feeling at the time was like someone had dropped a concrete slab onto the back of my leg, or had been hitting the back of the leg with a sledgehammer. And again, you go down, you sort of look behind and think, who the fuck's just fucking clattered me? But again, nobody's there. And at that point, I absolutely knew it was serious. So I hope you can see this okay, but this is an actual photo from literally minutes after the injury happening. So you can see that I'm actually being carried off by a couple of the teammates. And yeah, this was actually exactly when it happened. And pretty poignant that the photo was then published in black and white, because it was a definitely black and white moment. So when it happened, one of the boys that was actually playing in the game, he is a physiotherapist. He was ended up being actually the physio who I would then go to for my treatment to help me get back to where I am at the moment. And he performed what's known as a Thompson test. So essentially they squeeze your calf and your foot should react to that. But obviously, with the tendon being snapped at the back of the leg, it was no longer attached to the heel. So when he squeezed the calf, my foot would just lie completely limp. I was then taken to the hospital, and I was then had that confirmed by a consultant.
We're sure general getting my scan hopefully this morning, and I've got my cast off, so that's a bonus. I've got this thing on instead, but so aye, just waiting now to see if I can get my scan in. I can get that done and we'll find out what's happened.
Right, time to get some props involved here. So when the injury happened, I was given one of these bad boys. So this is an air cast, and for the best part of 5 months, post-surgery, we'll touch on that in a wee minute, but yeah, for almost 5 months I was wearing this. And yeah, obviously I've just said there that I went down the surgical route. So for many people, when I went and seen a consultant beforehand who had mentioned a more conservative treatment where essentially you let nature take its course and you allow just the tendon to reattach itself. But for myself, I'm young, I'm fit, I'm active, I also work as a personal trainer. I wanted to try and minimise any downside and give myself the best chance of having a full recovery. Now, as I say, the science is kind of much of a muchness, but for myself, as I say, I just wanted that security to know that I would make a full recovery. So I decided to go down the surgical route, which I went private. Obviously, I don't want to get into political issues here in the UK, but yeah, I had to pay to go private, and I ended up, the treatment I got was an Achilles speed bridge. So the same treatment that Aaron Rodgers, that was a famous one around the time, that he got also. Like I say, that everybody's recovery is completely unique to themselves, but one thing I can remember that did it benefit me potentially was early weight bearing. I can remember going to get my staples out the back of my leg post surgery. That was maybe 21 days post surgery. I was going to get them out, and the consultant asked why I'd brought my crutches. And again, it was a lack of confidence. You know, it was a traumatic injury. You're kind of thinking to yourself, geez, like, I want to protect yourself. But one thing he had me doing very, very early on was making sure I was putting weight through my left leg. And again, looking back, I think at the time I was maybe a wee bit too hesitant to maybe want to push myself. But I think as well it was to stave off any sort of atrophy in my left leg, which 4 or 5 weeks down the line, my leg had just went to nothing. It was, yeah, the atrophy in my leg was unbelievable. So what I would say is round about this time was definitely the hardest part of the recovery. I wasn't allowed really out to do much because of fear of infection. So the area of the body where you get the surgery doesn't get a lot of blood supply. So if it does become infected, white blood cells will not make it to that area. So it means it becomes quite a serious issue. So I was literally bound in my own property for 5 weeks. Literally couldn't really do anything. I had to get food delivered, and I was doing wee home workouts here. I was maybe doing push-ups and sit-ups, sitting, watching YouTube. And this is probably why I was going to document my recovery journey, as something to do to pass the time. But at that time, I was just completely scunnered. Wasn't able to do anything, wasn't able to train. And a lot of the days were just Groundhog Day, maybe doing a wee bit of ankle mobility, slowly introducing resistance bands. But that definitely, the first kind of 4, 5, 6 weeks is definitely the hardest. So if you're in that stage just now, I want you to know that after this point is when things really start to improve. So about 6, 7 weeks in, I was even able to put trainers back on for the first time. And to be honest, the fear of taking your first step without your crutches or your boot, it's a fucking daunting experience. So what I want to say is, another purchase that I made that you might want to do yourself. Wait, I'll get in my wee bag of props here that I've got. So, oh, here we go. Is one of these. So it's a wee even up that you can wear. Essentially, you can just attach it to whatever shoes that you wear or your trainers, and essentially all it does is it evens yourself up with your boot, and it lets you get out and walk and gives you a wee bit of independence back. Once I get this on, I was able to go out, I was able to go to the shops. Eventually I was able to go back to the gym once the scar had healed and covered over. So yeah, these wee things here, even ups, not sponsored, but if you want to send a wee promo code my way, even up, for doing this. These are a lifesaver. So yeah, once you start to get moving again, guys, 100% invest in an even up.
So this was me at home, obviously absolutely scunnered, but you've got no option. You've got to get up and you've got to try and get moving again. You've got to be able to build the strength and just build the confidence back in yourself. What we have here is me very, very early on. You'll notice the atrophy in my left leg, but this is me getting walking essentially for the first time in maybe 2-3 months. So round about this time was when I was able to make it to the gym. I went on the local bus because I wasn't able to drive. But here's me practicing, learning how to walk again, which is unbelievable. So this is me going forward, heel to toe, and then trying to go backwards. As you can see here, I'm having mega difficulty doing this simple movement. But yeah, this is what you've got to go through.
Mentally, getting back to the gym and being able to, not obviously the physical benefits are fantastic and they were absolutely needed, but it was more that kind of mental side of things where I knew at that point I could then start to really just see wee improvements. Started introducing things like isometric holds on my left leg, and then eventually wee calf raises were introduced using my soleus muscle at the bottom of my calf. And once I started noticing small improvements with that, I started noticing improvements with my walking. That was a massive game changer for me at that point. And that all happened kind of 3-4 months in. So as I say, that initial 6-7 weeks, just get through that. And then that's really when things start to kind of snowball in your favour and you start to notice a big difference. So this was me probably about 4 or 5 months in, and this was my first time actually walking on a treadmill. As you can see, I still had the boot with me because I wear that for protection, but yeah, I had my trainers on and I was literally walking on a treadmill. Well, I'll be honest, I was absolutely petrified at this point. And shortly after, this was then followed by me being able to run for the first time in, I would say, 6 months, but to be honest, this was probably too soon. But yeah, this was my first time running. Once I'd actually got up and moving around and I'd managed to get back to the gym, which I say was a game changer for you both just physically and mentally, I was following what was known as the RFX training plan. So this was a return to sport plan, and essentially it was broke into 2 weeks you to achieve whatever it was on the plan. If you could achieve that, you could then move on to the next one. So it took you up to about 6 months, and at 6 months, I was then given the opportunity to do a charity run. Not just any sort of charity run, we're not talking to the end of the street. It was a half marathon, and ego potentially got the better of me. Before all this happened, I was doing quite well with my running. I'd done sub-3-hour marathons and wee bits and bobs, and everything was going swimmingly, and obviously the injury happened. So I think it was a bit of ego for myself to prove to myself that I could still do what I was doing before. And I'll be honest, it was a ridiculous idea at the time, and it probably set me back maybe 2-3 months in my recovery. So a lesson is stay in your lane. Don't try and do anything too quickly. Listen to your body. If your body's telling you this is a fucking stupid idea, it's telling you that for a reason. Whereas, I don't know what it was, like I say, a bit of ego. I then pushed on and I done the half marathon. I'll probably attach the time that I done it in. But that was at the 7-month mark, and yeah, I shouldn't have done that. So yeah, here is the result of the charity half marathon that I took part in 7 months post Achilles rupture. Like I said previously, do not recommend that you try this. No, a ridiculous idea for myself. So that kind of brings me now into kind of 3 lessons that I've kind of taken away from my recovery. So the first one is patience. Again, there was moments in my recovery where I was maybe just trying to push myself a wee bit too much, especially after I'd get back into the gym and I was able to train again. So yeah, be patient. Wait until your body is giving you the signs that yes, we're able to progress, and then take it from there. Secondly is to be consistent with the recovery work that you've been given. Like I say, although we want to try and be patient, we also still need to be able to do the work. So being consistent with that, whether it is your mobility work, whether it's using your bands 2-3 times a day, whether it is getting into the gym and getting your calf strengthening done, whether it is eventually when you get there being able to start introducing plyometrics. You have to be consistent with that. And even at this stage, 16 months on, even though I've now been signed off from physio, he's made it clear that the work doesn't stop here. I still need to continue doing mobility. I still need to keep on top of my calves. I still need to keep on top of my flexibility. I still need to make sure that my recovery is decent. Before I start training, I still need to make sure that I'm warming up correctly. So all of these things, despite being now signed off, which I got signed off at the 15-month mark, I still need to continue these. And the third point for me is not to compare yourself to others. I was obviously quick to say at the start of the video, this is my own journey, this is unique to me, but I'm going to use this to inspire others. But don't use other people's journeys as, oh, why am I not there? Why am I not progressing as fast as this person? If you just look at the world of sport, again, we'll touch back on football, we can look at someone like Axel Witsel, who returned, I think, within 6 months to play in the Euros. An amazing recovery. Compare that to somebody like Presto Kimpembe, who was out for almost 2 years, or Santi Cazorla in the NBA. Kevin Durant, one of the greatest basketball players ever, took him 700 days to return. You know, so same injury, but completely different timelines. So don't be looking at one person and thinking they're ahead of me, why am I not doing what they're doing just now? Stay in your lane, and as I say, be patient. So again guys, it's just to provide you with some social proof. This is me, 16 month, actually the day I recorded the video, out running 12k. We've got blue skies here in Glasgow. They don't happen often, so we've got to get out and make the most of them. But yeah, it's just to prove that if you put in the work, if you're patient, as I say, don't compare yourself to others. We know footballers that have returned after 5-6 months, but also some of the greatest basketball players in the world have taken maybe 2 years. You'll get there. Just continue to put in the work, stay positive. Again, lean on other people, don't be afraid to ask questions, and you'll absolutely get there. So, where am I at the moment? So, yeah, just to kind of summarise, I'm now out running. I have been for the past kind of 4 months, I want to say. So around about the year mark is when I started running. And I'll be honest, my ankle mobility is improving all the time. It's not there yet. It's still not 100%. The strength in my calf is getting there. That's also taken a lot of extra work to try and get it the same size as my good side. So I think I'm 1.25 centimetre smaller on my left side. Whether that comes back, time will tell. But the strength, the markers, they're improving. Plyometrics wise is something that at the very start, I'll tell you this story, but I went to the physio and she literally put a wee box in front of me, maybe about that off the floor. And this was the first time I had jumped post-injury. And you need to bear in mind I'm a personal trainer. You know, I've been involved in sports and fitness my whole entire life. And she put this tiny wee box in front and she says, I want you to jump up onto the box. And I literally froze. I literally fucking stood. And I was looking at this tiny little box and I was like, I can't jump. My feet wouldn't leave the floor. And she just stopped and she says, no problem at all, we'll do that the next time you come back. You know, and that was just that psychological aspect of the fear that something so traumatic can happen again. So it just shows you the effect that it has on you, not only physically, but mentally as well. But it wasn't until then I went back and then I jumped onto the box once, twice, 3 times. And I'm like, I'm still alive, I'm still here, everything's okay. And that just bred confidence. And then now, as I say, one of the big things that I really make sure I work upon is my plyometrics. So whether I'm running or I'm in the gym doing my weights workout, I always add in maybe 5-6 minutes of plyometric work. Just again, I want to try and add a wee bit of springiness to the tendon again. So here's a wee visual of some of the kind of plyometric works that I'm now able to implement into my training. As you can see, I'm working equally on both sides. But yeah, I would say this is around about the kind of 14-month mark, and it's taken a lot to build confidence, but this is where we're at currently. I'm also able now to barbell back squat without any sort of heel lift or any plates underneath my heels. So yeah, this was me on holiday. As you do as a personal trainer, you go to the gym on holiday. And yeah, I'm now able to barbell back squat. I can actually squat heavier now than what I did pre-injury. But like I say, I can now do it with flat soles on. And finally, here is me jumping up onto the big box. For me, this was probably the hardest part psychologically. You'll notice at the start I'm very hesitant before I take off, but we're getting there. I'm fortunate now I'm able to be back doing most of the things that I want to be doing. I'm able to run, I can barbell back squat, I can jump, I can do walking lunges. The only thing that I've not done is return to sport. At this point, 16 months in, I don't feel as if I am ready still to return to sport. If some people are, then fantastic, but I just feel that the mobility in my ankle's just taking a wee bit longer. And also as well, I will be honest, I've still got some fucking lingering PTSD from playing football, as that's where the injury happened. So over time, will I return to sport? Will I go back, play sports like badminton and tennis? Time will tell. I'm not putting any pressure on myself to return to that. But yeah, I hope that in this video I've tried to condense 16 months into 20 minutes. If there's any follow-up questions, put them in the comments below, and yeah, I'll maybe make up a wee follow-up video going a wee bit more in depth into my recovery, more specifics, what kind of training I done. At the time I did document a lot of the training, so I've got them on the old camera roll that I can then bring out onto these videos, and that just gives you a more visual of what kind of stuff I was actually doing and in kind of what time frame as well. But yeah, this is my first ever YouTube video and I hope you enjoyed it. Was it like, comment and subscribe? professional. As I say, if there's any questions, anything you're not sure, drop them in the comments below, and thanks for watching if you made it this far.